What's the number of credit cards that you've got?
10 can be a number that we can use. I don't use more than 10-15% of my total.
That's it. Are viewers out there who want to understand the spectrum of expenditure which is most rewarding?
The highest I've ever got is about 33.3%. And all our flights and hotels were 80% paid by my reward points.
How hardcore do you have to be into knowing all of this?
You could go as deep in it as possible. You'll end up in a rabbit hole and end up spending a lot of time and effort for unproductive returns, honestly.
I want to get to that actually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Hello everyone and welcome to Mind Your Karza with One Finance, a show where we help you understand and improve your relationship with debt products such as loan, credit cards and more. Today's episode is on credit cards, how to use them in the right way to maximize the many benefits they provide while being mindful of the risks that they carry. My guest, Abhishek Ponia, content consultant and an avid user of credit cards. Abhishek, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I need to get this right. What's the number of credit cards that you've got? Okay, because before the show we were talking and I said it's 10, you said it's kind of fluctuates. Help us with that. Let's start from there.
No, so I have around 10 credit cards, but whenever I feel that I don't want to have a certain credit card in my group, as I would say, I'm happy to shut it down, close it, and if I find another credit card that I think will be useful for me, or if I think it will be a value add sooner or later, then I add it on. So yeah, 10 can be it can be a number that we can use, but it is around that. Having said that, the question that I get asked very often is how do I manage or use 10? Honestly, I don't think most people, more than 1% of people will actually have a need for more than 4 or 5 cards at most. I think for all of us, for most of us, 4 or 5 cards at most is more than sufficient for, to extract the maximum benefit that we can out of credit cards. But, that's the kick, right? You're trying to extract benefit out of it beyond the usual utility that it presents.
Tell us about your journey in credit cards. When did you first start using them all the way to today? How do you categorize the various credit cards that you've got?
So, I started using credit cards way back in 2014-15. It was in Dubai. I was living in Dubai, and initially I used to be really scared of credit cards, and I got a free one, and I was very tempted to explore. But I was really scared because growing up in an average Indian household, credit card is something that you're asked to stay away from because it's considered to be something that is too risky. Or you might easily end up in a trap or, lose money. So that was my initial mindset towards it. But I used to travel a lot for work when I was in Dubai, and I used to travel globally. And the credit card used to give me unlimited lounge access. So I experienced that, and that was a whole, different experience in the way that it made my travels better. At the airport when you're after a lot of meetings, etc. And I used to go to the lounge and have a good meal. Didn't have to pay for it and got global cuisine to experience. It was something that, was exciting. So that's why I got into it. When I came back to India and moved back, because I didn't really have a credit history here, no one was willing to give me a credit card. And I couldn't use my Dubai credit card because that had expired. Yep. So I had to take a credit card against an FD because there was no other option at that time. And I went to my bank and I took, and I had that. But I understood the value of using credit cards because the benefits are many if you can use it right. Okay. And that really got me involved. And then slowly as I came back here and I started working here again, and my credit profile was built, then I was able to get credit cards. And eventually I realized that while the systems in India, benefits in India were slightly different, but there were many varied benefits within our credit card universe in India, and I got it. It's a very exciting thing, a kick. Ki credit card has a certain utility, and you're using it for that. But by doing a little different or a little more, and if you can structure it well, you can derive good kind of extra benefit from it. Sometimes in the form of money, sometimes in the form of experiences, which you would otherwise not experience. So that got me really, into it a little more, and then I kept getting into it. Initially, it was very random. It was very ad hoc as to how I would take a credit card, if it was easily accessible, or it just got me excited even for a moment, I would want to take it. Eventually, I realized that you don't need too many credit cards to maximize your returns. So now I have credit cards which I use for different purposes.
I want to get to that actually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So majority, more than half of my purchases have been from one single credit card.
Okay.
Now I have shortlisted 3 of my credit cards which serve me. More than 90% of my expenses happen between these 3.
Okay.
There's a HDFC Diners Club Black card that I have. Most of my majority of my expenses happen there. I have an Axis Atlas. My travel, because I travel for work and for personal leisure, hotels and flights, that happens, all of that happens there. And I have an Amex which comes with its own benefits. Most of my transactions happen within this.
Right.
The 4th card that I use is recently that I got one was Rupee card, Tata New Infinity Rupee card, which I have attached it to my UPI.
UPI. Yeah.
So for my UPI expenses, I use that card. Now all the other cards have very specific benefits which I use once in a while, or which are helping me in my lifestyle. For example, I have a co-branded Vistara card. It gives me a Vistara Gold membership, which comes with its own benefits. And I travel Vistara a lot, so I make the most of it. And it has helped my flying experience become much better. Yeah. So while the purpose there is not really in terms of money, it's giving me a much better experience at the airport, at the lounge, or even, I get upgrades, all of that. So I'm making the most of it in that way. So I have classified them as my daily lifestyle, and some are very, very specific to travel. So this is how I work with my cards. The remaining ones, most of them are free for life. I keep them because once in a while they will have an amazing offer running, or once in a while a certain platform will give something very good, which
online sale or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Those get used only then, otherwise they are resting.
Abhishek, credit cards are also very remunerative in terms of loyalty points, reward points that you can redeem, and there are conversion rates for that also. So when you redeem these points, is there any metric that you track that helps you understand beyond the experience part? What are the financial returns that you get by using these cards?
I don't get too finicky about how much exactly I've recovered out of it, because a lot of it is experiential. However, the lowest return that I get out of a transaction is about 3.3%, and the highest I've ever got is about 33.3%.
Wow. It's
a massive spectrum, but that doesn't always happen at the higher end. It happens more at the lower end. On an average, I would say on everything that I spend on my credit cards, I'm able to derive about 10 to 12% of return in terms of the rewards, the money or the reward points that come back, which I can translate into money and I use for booking flights, for booking hotels, for travel experiences. I think 10 to 12% is the kind of reward I've been able to get without any, too much effort of us.
And for our viewers out there who want to understand the spectrum of expenditure, which is most rewarding, there is some that obviously is very rewarding in some cases, like miles. Okay, in some cases like hotels, where you get 1 rupee for 1 point. And then there are others where you maybe get like 0.30 for 1 point, something of that sort. Could you just explain to our viewers the spectrum that's there when you redeem these points?
See, redemption of points is determined heavily by the kind of card you hold. Axis for a long time, for example, has cards which are very travel focused. So you can redeem them for good returns on travel redemptions, right? It can be hotel redemptions, it can be air mile redemptions. They have very good conversion ratios. However, HDFC, for example, has a smart buy platform, which is very good. There you can redeem for across, beyond hotel and flights also. You can also redeem for vouchers of brands, and you can even redeem for credit into your statements, right? Usually, I've seen that the best possible redemptions happen in the travel segment, flights or hotels. Now, most super premium cards will give you better redemptions towards flights and hotels. And that is how I've been able to actually fund quite a bit of my travels. Me and the wife, we've traveled to Sikkim, and all our flights and hotels were completely, I would say 80% paid by my reward points. Same thing, we've done international travel, Indian travel, and a lot of that has happened. Now, each platform, or each card rather, has its own way of giving you the redemption. My top card gives me the option to redeem across airlines, for example, and across hotel chains, or even from a third-party OTA platform where I can just go and redeem. However, some will only give you better returns only if it is converted into miles. Yeah. The kind of cards you hold, that way it is best to figure out what works for you. However, if I have to put a general statement towards hotels and flights, is where you will get a good return on all the spends.
And some of these, there are obviously some blacklisted days like weekends and New Year where you can't redeem them. The point that I'm asking is that how hardcore do you have to be into knowing all of this versus someone who's, यार अभी ये सब नहीं होता है मेरे से यार, I just want to enjoy. So how hands-on do you have to be? How much time do you actually have to spend on doing all this? Because it sounds like a lot of effort.
It sounds a lot of like effort, definitely. I would say for any normal person, you should not be spending too much time or too much effort into all of this. If it is taking too much of your time, honestly, you could go as deep in it as possible. You'll end up in a rabbit hole and end up spending a lot of time and effort for unproductive returns. Honestly, you're not going to make 50%, 100% returns on this. This is not. It's not. Is not going to change your life overall. If today I had, no credit cards and I was still spending it, barely any difference to my life. So I wouldn't recommend anyone to that go into it so deep that it consumes you. Obviously, there are certain people who are, for them, this is because they have a lot of time at hand, or maybe their work allows them to, focus a lot on this. It's different for them.
Yeah.
For a normal person, as long as you can derive decent amount of value out of it and it helps your travels or some experiences in a certain way, I think that should be fine. The reason I say this, because there is, apart from the usual credit card traps that happen, it's easy to overspend and all of that, the lure of the reward point can easily make you spend more than you would normally would.
That's a risk out there that you need to be very careful of.
And this is, I'm talking about a risk which is slightly different from the usual credit card risk. Normally, credit card risk mein agar I'm going to the shopping mall and I want to buy something, I'm attracted by what I'm buying, right? So I might overspend. That's a different kind of mentality. But I have seen a lot of people overspend because they want to get so many rewards out of it, or so many
milestone spends,
right?
What about milestone spends?
Yeah, you are trying to get a certain return, but there's a very good chance that your lifestyle or your expenditure is going beyond what it should be, right? And that again, it's very lucrative, but it is easy to go into that direction, and I would not recommend that at all because gradually it piles up, right?
Yeah. I actually want to go a little bit more deeper in that. There's something called double dipping and triple dipping. What is all that, and is that really worth your time?
I'll give you one example of double dipping and one example of triple dipping. Oh, by the way, these are just terms which have been coined. They are not technical terms.
Yeah.
This is just a way of saying how do you get benefits from two different places for doing one transaction or one type of transaction which you would do anyways, but you get dual benefits or triple benefits. Now, for example, I spend a lot of my some of my money for groceries and food, etc. on Swiggy, for example, right? Swiggy is I like the app. It has Instamart for groceries, it has food delivery, and it has also has Dine Out, for example. And I know I spent a certain amount of money on it. So what I do once a month is I buy voucher of Swiggy. Okay, voucher of Swiggy from my Smart Buy platform where they have a tie-up with Gifter, right? So I use my credit card and I get accelerated points on it. I get accelerated points on buying the voucher. So if I buy a voucher of say 10,000, many times Gifter has discounts. So I get a 10,000 voucher for say 9,500 or 9,000, right?
Yeah.
So I've got accelerated points on my card, which my card is offering. So there my return instead of 3.3% has suddenly become 9.9%, which is 3x return, right? So I got a 9.9 and then I got a discount on what Gifter was offering. And then I put the voucher into my Swiggy money. And then Swiggy is offering me discounts because I'm buying, right? So I've been able to discount a return from multiple places by doing the same transaction.
Yeah. I mean, the money is being spent from one source. Buying the vouchers. The way that you spend it has given you all these benefits.
Correct. And similarly, I'll give you one more example
Sure,
if
please.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
Tata Click. A lot of us do shopping on Tata Click, right? So Tata Click often has its own set Diwali discount or whatever. Let me say, for an example, say that if you shop for 5,000 rupees, you will get 1,000 rupees off, for example, right? I would first go use my credit card and buy a voucher of Tata Click. Okay, so I have the voucher. Now I added that money into my Tata Click wallet, right? So I've made accelerated rewards there because I'm buying the voucher and then I'm getting a discount here. But again, there's a third layer. There's a Tata New app. Tata New app is saying anything you buy through the app, I will give you 5% return.
And Tata New hosts stuff like Big Basket and a lot of other
It has Tata Click in it. So the Tata Click purchase, I will make from the Tata New app. So there I get 5%. Tata Click is giving me a 1,000 rupee off and I've got accelerated returns on my credit card spend. This is 3 different people are giving me, good returns. So this is triple dipping. So if you can understand this and employ it without too much effort, then it's worth
So
it.
do you think this is one area where, say that you meet your friends who also have credit card, but they don't have any idea about this? And is this really understood by a lot of people? Are there any hidden benefits? Are there any other hidden hacks or tips that you feel that you could share with our viewers right now?
This whole aspect of, trying to maximize your reward points, I wouldn't recommend everyone to do it. If you're very happy in paying your credit card bills on time and you're happy in just the base reward that you're getting, because the credit card is serving a purpose, right? It is a utility product that you're using and it is helping you with your managing your cash flows or managing your expenditures. As long as that is covered, I don't think you need to really get into it too much. But if you're enthusiastic about it, you have time, you're a traveler, or you feel that there is a certain amount of benefit you can derive out of it, then yes, a certain amount of effort is fine. I wouldn't recommend too many people to go deep into it. I obviously recommend sometimes when I meet my friends, if they have credit cards, there's an offer like this or this is what you should do, and they're happy to do it. So I wouldn't want to push anyone into going, too deep into it.
So what's happened in the last couple of years is that a lot of high category spends have also moved towards credit card. One example is rent, obviously. I've heard of people buying cars, so at least a down payment via credit card. I don't know what's your experience on that. Rent can be quite remunerative, although I don't know whether that benefit is still there. It was there in the start. So what's your experience?
So most credit cards have taken rent off their reward structures, or they have modified it a lot. Also, they've also started imposing, some of them have started imposing a fee on it. So if you pay rent with your credit card, you have to pay 1.5% extra.
Wow, okay.
For example. Right?
That would bring the net effective rate a bit down.
Right. Okay. And it has also, some cards have also removed it from their, milestones and stuff like that. So earlier it was being used heavily by a lot of people, but now rent has changed. Cars.
Buying a car,
Car, it's a very dealer specific thing because I bought a car last year, okay, and I visited a lot of showrooms of different brands, a lot of dealers. Most of them said if you pay with credit card, I will charge you 2% extra on the amount that you swipe.
2% is a lot.
Yeah, so some of them would negotiate and bring it down to 1.5. Some of them would not budge. But for, one thing that came to my mind is, this is too much of an exercise for me to, swipe and then go check my reward and, pay this 2% extra. Secondly, car buying is a very intimate kind of an experience. You test drive a lot of cars and you're buying a car. I did not want all of this part to go into it because I'm trying to, upgrade in a certain way and move more into it. One important point that came to my mind there is your credit limit. If you buy a car, your credit utilization will be very high. And I didn't want that to affect my credit score in any way because you will end up paying a lot of money, right? So for all these reasons, I think it's just too much of a hassle to go into these big spends. If it works for people, yes, fine, but it's just little bit too much for me. Another thing that I wanted to mention, you asked previously, is the things that I would recommend people to do with credit cards. Surely, 2 things I would say, because it is easy and I think you should definitely do it, is use a lot of gift cards. Gift cards will help you get accelerated rewards. It will help you get discounts. Plus, when I pay on any app, if I already have put the money in there with the gift card, every time I check out, I don't have to go and do the whole OTP process and all of that. It's just faster. So my experience is also better. I'm also getting better rewards. So gift cards is something I recommend, definitely. Second thing, which many people overlook, is travel insurance. A lot of cars come with travel insurance. So I think the criteria for it is you just have to make the booking with that certain credit card and that credit card will honor it. What I have the habit of doing it, if I make any such booking, especially for travel abroad, I write an email to the credit card company or I call the customer care and I inquire about the travel insurance that is applicable on it, which I think is a good feature that we should use because if something, God forbid, something happens to you when you're abroad and traveling, you should know how you can,
Very important.
Yeah, it will be helpful for you and you should at least be aware of what you can do to, use that insurance at the right time.
I'm sure that when you say travel insurance, you're including stuff like medical, lost baggage, delayed
flights, all of that.
Like
all of that. A lot of cards do offer. If you have a card which says this is one of its benefits, you should definitely
check it out. Yeah. Okay. Just coming a bit on the discipline part, 2 or 3 things that I want to ask you. First off, how much of your overall credit limit, if I look at the total credit that you've got across all these credit cards, say 100, how much of that do you actually land up using? And is there a good, bad, healthy number out there?
I don't use more than 10-15% of my
Wow.
total
That's it.
credit limit.
Very interesting.
I think it's also because I have more credit cards, so cumulatively my credit limit is quite big.
Okay.
Secondly, there's been a lot of talk about if you cross 25-30%, then it starts affecting your CIBIL score. So that I've been cognizant of from the very beginning. So I've always tried to keep it under that. As a rule, I just try to say that I should always keep it below 25. Sometimes there are big purchases, there's a wedding in the family, or something else has come up, or there's a big international travel happening. It's possible that you might go sometimes, but not consistently. I try to stay completely away from going beyond.
Not as a habit.
No, definitely not.
Annual membership fees, right?
Yeah.
Because some of the higher end credit cards have some pretty hefty fees.
Yeah.
Okay, that again depends on how you negotiate with them, etc.
Yeah.
What's been your experience out there? You mentioned you've got some which are LTF, which is lifetime free.
Yeah.
But aside from that, what's been your experience on annual membership fees that you have to pay?
So I have not got any favors from any of the credit card issuers at all, because they are usually more skewed towards when you have a massive relationship value with them. So either you are investing with them, or you have a lot of amount in your bank account that is there at all times, so the average balance is very high, or you have other products that you utilize from the bank. I don't have any such big relationship value with a single bank. So no one ever gave me any favors or benefits as such. So my first criteria about taking any card where I am paying is I try to analyze if it is really going to be worth that amount that I'm putting in, right? At the very least, it should give me 3x of the amount that I'm paying.
Wow, okay.
So there are a couple of cards where I'm paying quite a big annual fee, but I believe I will get at least 3x the return on that by not changing my life too much.
Okay.
By doing the usual stuff I anyways do, but the only thing I'm changing is I'm replacing my existing card with usage on that card, and that itself is helping me a lot more. Here the example is the Vistara co-branded card that I have, right? It has a fee of 10,000 plus taxes for me, but the return I'm able to derive out of it through the business class flight, through my gold membership, and the other points that I get altogether is much more beneficial for me. So because my travel is high and my airline usage in this case is high, I am happy to pay that amount because it is giving me a much better experience.
Fantastic. And last question is, what's your discipline around repayment? I mean, for whatever number of cards you've got, 5, 10, whatever that number is, have you adjusted all that for a single day? Is it over a period of time? First is that, how have you adjusted that? And second is, do you follow a discipline around repayment, like paying it literally on the last day, maybe to maximize your savings, banking on interest? I don't know.
No. So I can say this very proudly that I have never missed or never been delayed on a single payment in my entire 8-9 years of using credit cards. I have never. Not a single bill has ever been delayed. Secondly, for me it's very simple. I have not tried to pay till the last day. I'm not so finicky about that. I have a certain date, which is usually in the first week of the month, is when I pay off all my credit card bills. All that is outstanding till then is paid off completely, and I do this. Usually that's in the first 1 week, 10 days is when I get all my payments from my clients and wherever this revenue is coming from. And the usual allocation is I first pay off my credit card bills. I'm not worried about waiting till the last day. It is a discipline that I have made for myself. It's just a routine, and I do it that time, and I'm very peaceful and happy with doing that.
So I want to just wind up this episode with maybe a checklist. Starting from the last point, because I think that is the single most important point for anyone that has a credit card. Pay your bill on time. Okay, that's the first one. Maybe number 2 is take credit cards as per your. Let's just have a few tips out there from you.
One is, like you said, pay credit card bill on time. 2, do not ever overspend for reward points. You should know what your personal finance situation is, how much you're earning, how much you want to spend, and you should always be within that limits. 3, there are so many credit card options available. Do your research before you get into one. See if the annual fee makes sense for you. 4, utilize once you have the credit card and it is applicable to you, useful for you, make use of it completely. Last and the most important point, don't get so obsessed and consumed by it that you are, you know, spending so much time on it that the rest of your life is getting somehow always associated with what you're doing in your credit card life, because I think it's very easy to go into that trap, right? I think it also makes you unproductive if you're just spending too much time on doing this. Of course, make the most of it, but it's a part of life. It's something that will give you the extra bragging rights, some fun and some kicks, but it should not become a problem. It should never be something that consumes you.
Yeah. Enjoy the experience. Don't make it a major part of your life. Would that be right way of putting it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Abhishek, thank you so much for sharing your insights with our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you.